Hi there, this is Jim from Janku, and today I want to take a first look at doing layers in Gimp. So I'm in Gimp right now, and if I open up my project and I create a new template, I'm just going to use the defaults here. It has a dark colored background. And the first thing I might want to do when I'm in here, I might be tempted to start drawing shapes right onto this background, and you'll soon notice some issues with doing that. So if I come up here and I grab this select tool, the rectangular select tool, and I make a shape here, and I go to my fill tool and I fill it in with red color, and then maybe I come over here and I draw another one, and I go to my fill tool and I fill it in with the red color. Now if I want to compose this in a different way, so if I were to try to grab one of these shapes here, these red rectangles, and pull it, I'm actually pulling the whole background and all the shapes together because they are all onto the same image here in the same layer. So we can adjust this a little bit. So on the right hand panel here, I have this layers panel open. You can notice that I only have one layer here. So if I were to right click on this, I can actually add a new layer, and we'll use the default size, the width and height here, and I'll just say okay. And you can see that I have a new layer here. And it's actually selected to the same area. So my selection from before is still on the page, and my layer is here, so it's the whole layer. But if I come over here and I were to fill in this shape here, you'll notice now, and something interesting is going to happen here, but you'll notice that this can be moved around because it's on a different layer, but you still see this kind of large border box around the edge here because that is the layer size that we initially set this to. And essentially all we were doing was filling in this select area on that layer. So what happens if we wanted smaller layers? Well, we can do that. So one way I would actually go about doing that is I might just, come here and create a new shape. And instead of just filling it in on this, I might do the Control C to copy, and then I would just do a Control V to paste, and you'll notice that it opens up a suggestion over here to paste this to a new layer. So this is a floating selection here, and if I right click on it and I say to new layer, okay, now we have a new layer here that's the appropriate size. So if I fill this in and I were to move this around, you see that we have a layer that is just the size of the thing that we pasted here. So we could go through and we could actually adjust some of these other ones that already exist by copying and pasting them as well. So we have this initial layer here, and you notice that as I grab a new layer, it highlights on the right hand pane what layer I'm using. So I'm moving that bottom layer there. I could come here and I could actually just select around this shape here and try to get that somewhat tight. And then if I Control X to cut it, I can then paste it to its own layer. So again, I get the floating selection and I move that to its own layer. And now I can move this around in a similar fashion that I move this other independent layer around. We could also crop this individual layer here if we want. So we could select, copy, and then paste it to a new layer like we did previously. We could also come and shrink this down by using the crop tool. So if I select crop tool, and now one thing I'm going to want to do here is I'm going to want to make sure this current layer only is selected, because if I don't select that, I'll show you what that looks like right now, and I were to press enter, it's going to crop everything off my screen. So I'm just going to Control Z to go back to where I was a second ago, and I'm going to make sure this current layer is chosen. And if I were to just make sure I'm on the correct layer, so this is the layer that I have in mind, so I select in the right hand pane, and if I come over and I were to crop this, I can now press enter and I crop that one specific layer, and now this can be moved around kind of independently of the others. So I'm just going to actually quickly just adjust my color here, make this a little darker so it's easy to see these different layers here. So that one's there. Maybe I'll make this one a little bit darker down here, and I'll select this one and I'll paste it. Okay, so now you can kind of see the differences in these layers. They are independent of each other. If we select the background, you can kind of see the depth of them. So you can determine the layering of them, the order of them, by adjusting where they appear in this background. So you notice right now, this dark color red box appears all the way at the bottom, and it's because it's in the bottom of the stack over here. If we want it to appear above the other layers, we can just drag this to the top of the stack, and now it will appear in order above the other layers. And it's as simple as that to kind of move these around. Another cool thing is once these are independent little objects like this in their own layers, we can do different adjustments on them. So if we wanted to resize, we could come over to the scale tool. We could grab these and I could click on this individual layer. And one thing is if this little lock box is checked right there, then this is going to scale with how it was set up initially. So if I grab this, you'll see that it scales proportionally. The width and the height scale at the same size. Since this is just a colored picture and it's not going to pixelate at all, what I can do is I could actually uncheck this if I wanted to, and then I could manipulate the size of this and it's still going to look fine. So I can make this look drastically different, scale it, and I just have this layer here that I can move around at a different size. So this will allow you to compose things and change the layers and change the order. Hopefully that makes a lot of sense to folks, and hopefully it will help you out your first look at drawing something in Gimp so you're not frustrated by drawing everything to the same layer and not being able to change it later. All right, thanks for watching. Take care.